Earlier this week, a source reached out to me after being spurred on by a conversation he heard me and Dan have on Broken Silicon 348 about when next-gen consoles would launch. In summary, this contact agreed that there's basically no way Sony would bother to upgrade the node of the PS6 because it would just be too cost prohibitive. Sony is therefore stuck on 3nm. They planned their handheld and their home console on 3nm. That's where all the design work has gone, and if they were to delay the console and then decide they need to upgrade it to 2nm, that would cost a ton of money. And I don't think therefore they can delay it with the confirmation that Xbox will be launching in 2027, or at least that's the plan as of now, according to AMD. But don't just take it from Lisa Su. Also take it from this source that I've been talking about. Someone that I will now mention is someone that has worked directly on Xbox Magnus. It is one of my best sources who, over the years, has never been wrong about anything they've told me. And they let me know that Xbox Magnus, and that's the whole thing, the GPU chiplet and the CPU chiplet, that these things were finalized basically in the past few months. I won't say which month, I won't say which team, where, but I will say this person's never wrong. They work directly on it, and it's basically design completed. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that it's not just like the blueprints are done or the idea of it is done or even just the rough schematics of the silicon are done. Everything, the wiring, the bumps, every little thing on this is done. To put it into car terms, it would be like if Ford was working on a new pickup truck and then they were no longer in the stage of drawing the concepts of it, nor modeling the parts, nor even mapping out where the screws would go. No, this would be like if all of it was done. Like they knew where every little wire, every little screw in that pickup truck was going to go, and they were ready to send it off to their suppliers to manufacture test units. Now, to be fair, I was told that there could still be a little bit of cleanup work going on with some of the metal layers on these silicon dies for Xbox Magnus and RDNA 5 graphics cards, but that I honestly think by now even that's probably done. And so we're at this stage where little things could change here and there. Like, to bring back the car analogy, you know, Ford might design a pickup truck and then late in development they might say, we're going to go with this screw here instead of that screw. Like, tiny little tweaks can be done after they tape out and test the silicon. But for all intents and purposes, Xbox Magnus's exact silicon is done. It is ready to be sent to manufacture test units, and that puts them well ahead of schedule. In fact, I was told that this should easily allow for a late 2027 launch, and if things go as smoothly as they already have been going, it's plausible Xbox Magnus or RDNA 5 mid-range graphics cards could be ready to launch maybe even in Q3 of next year. Now, I wouldn't write down that I'm saying that's when Xbox Magnus launches, but that tells you a few, I think, very exciting things. First of all, I've heard of all of these rumors swirling around that Xbox Magnus might be canceled. And while I've always said that I don't know, Microsoft might do anything, I've personally never heard that Magnus was canceled, and now I can tell you with 99% certainty it won't be. You don't go this far into the design process and then cancel a product. You know, again, you might go, well, they've only designed it, doesn't mean they manufactured it. It's like, yes, but you have to understand the rough ideation phase and rough specs phase, that sort of thing isn't most of the cost. Most of the cost is having tons of engineers do all the micro work on where the wiring bumps, all of that interface is exactly going to go. If Microsoft has paid AMD and their partners they're working with to do all of this work, then it's done. They're definitely going to make Xbox Magnus. That's point one. Point two, from what I'm told, like I already mentioned, both of the dies are done. That means not just the unique CPU die for Xbox, but also the GPU chiplet, which I explained in this video you're seeing on screen here. Please watch it if you haven't yet. That GPU chiplet is literally, not similar, literally the same chip that will be used to make the successor to the 9070 XT next year. And so if that's also done now, I think it's also quite plausible we get an RDNA 5 desktop and maybe even, you know, Zen 6 Halo launches rolling out through next year, like I've already leaked should be able to happen. Now I'm confident it can happen should AMD want to be this aggressive with their timing. And so there you go. Xbox Magnus is well on track for a late 2027 launch at least, and therefore by extension, it's not being canceled at this point, and RDNA 5 GPUs, at least the mid-range ones that will share chiplets with Magnus, should be ready to launch by mid or late 2027 as well. And all right, well that actually does not do it for this video, as in probing for answers to recent Nova Lake rumors this week, I got some pretty massive bombshells when it comes to Nvidia and Intel APUs and the future of Intel graphics that I don't want to postpone to the next week. I want to leak all of this now today along with the Xbox stuff. So please bear with me because this is huge things I'm about to tell you after an ad from a sponsor. Generative AI isn't a future skill anymore. It is already reshaping how work gets done, from content creation to automated decision making. And if you don't understand it, you could fall behind fast. And that's why this piece of content is sponsored by Coursera. Coursera is a global online learning platform that partners with top universities like Yale, Stanford, and Vanderbilt, and companies like Google and IBM to offer a wide range of courses, specializations, professional certificates, and even full degrees in various subjects. And this includes courses on how to best leverage AI. You see, the real skill gap right now isn't just how do I use ChatGPT, it's knowing how to prompt, structure, and automate AI so it actually delivers consistent and high quality results, and that's where prompt engineering comes in. Specifically, if you search courses by Vanderbilt for these types of AI skills, an excellent university, by the way, that is based in the city I live in, Nashville, Tennessee, they have courses that focus on how to actually make AI work for you, like the prompt engineering course that teaches you how to get dramatically better outputs from tools like ChatGPT and DeepSeek by understanding how AI interprets instructions, something most people completely overlook or don't think about enough. The generative AI automation course as well goes a step further, showing how to build workflows and applications that automate tasks, boost productivity, and scale ideas without needing to be a hardcore programmer. And mind you, again, these are expert-led university courses. So you're not just learning tricks or something, you're learning best practices, ethical considerations, and how to use AI responsibly in professional settings. So whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who wants to future-proof their career, AI literacy is quickly becoming non-optional for all of us, and this is one of the most structured ways to build these skills. So if you want to stay competitive as AI evolves, now is the time to start at Coursera. Check out Coursera's generative AI and prompt engineering courses and start learning today with a free trial. Yes, a free trial. Going and clicking on the links below and trying it for free helps the channel a ton. And again, it gives you the benefits I've just discussed. So support Moore's Law is dead by checking out Coursera today. All right, so now let's move on from AMD and Xbox to Intel, specifically Nova Lake, and as you're about to see in the leak, Titan Lake. But I'm going to start with some of the Nova Lake stuff because, well, that product's actually launching in the next 12 months, and so I think we should cover what comes out first. But if you've missed it, I have already actually put out a huge Nova Lake leak that's pretty comprehensive, actually half a year ago. It goes over everything from performance to core counts to segmentation plans, and even details Intel's upcoming AMD Halo killers and future architectures like Titan Lake. More on those in a moment. But for now, briefly, I just want to touch on some recent rumors to add on to that leak that I've seen swirling around out there to clear up any misconceptions, and they have to do with Nova Lake power consumption and die sizes. First, the power. So I saw a bunch of people freaking out online about the person who leaked that the 4090 would consume 1,000 watts, and then it didn't, saying that Nova Lake would consume 700 watts. Well, it won't. I just want to be clear about that. I don't feel like I should have to tell you that product wouldn't be viable if it consumed 700 watts. But it's not just that. I actually got more confirmation on what sort of power consumption you should expect from Nova Lake. So why don't I just tell you? So first of all, I am told that, and I believe this might be out there, that PL1 and PL2, so the real power consumption limits, not the last limit if something crazy happens. But I am told that as of right now, the 52-core Nova Lake flagship is targeting a PL2 of 350 watts. So what does that mean? Well, if you compare it to Arrow Lake has a PL2 of 250 watts. But, Arrow Lake almost always is below 150, even in decent usage. And if you push it hard, it still almost never hits 250 watts. And so until final reviews come out, we can't say for sure what the typical power consumption of Nova Lake will be, but we can say the flagship will probably consume, yes, more power than the current Arrow Lake flagship, but it has over double the cores. And in addition to that, I was actually warned that who knows what motherboard vendors will do. This source, because of how many cores are in Nova Lake, could see some default BIOSes that have an unlocked by default, 400, 450 watt setting. Maybe it would use 400 watts in a lot of systems by default. But again, 400, not 700. But it is a lot. And actually, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to play devil's advocate and defend Intel on this a little bit. Let's be clear, actually, too, that none of this is final, right? I'm told that I should get way more updates about what final Nova Lake will look like in terms of power consumption probably over the next few months. And so this is still kind of just current targets. But let me play devil's advocate if the thing did consume, let's say, 400 watts when you push it crazy hard. It does have 52 cores, guys. I mean, genuinely, this thing will be HEDT class in terms of CPU performance. And so unlike with Raptor Lake, I don't think it's that insane if an HEDT class chip pulls HEDT class energy. That's very different than Raptor Lake with the 13900K, where they had to use more energy than Threadripper to still lose to Zen 4. All right, but then I'm sure many of you are already typing in the comments section, well, wait, energy pulled is energy pulled. Why aren't you as concerned about how hot it will get? And, well, the answer is people didn't complain about Threadripper pulling 350 watts because the thing was so frickin' big that you could have a larger heatsink and it really wasn't an issue to cool all of that power. And that might also be the case to a degree with Nova Lake. Now, it's on denser nodes than previous gen products. And again, I'm not sure. I can't get a promise out of anyone I talk to at Intel right now about how hot this thing is going to run. But I would suggest that, and this brings me to another rumor that's been swirling around there regarding Nova Lake that I want to address today. I would suggest that what we've seen out of leaked die sizes makes this thing look significantly larger than the Zen 6 24-core it's competing with, giving it much more surface area to cool it. But that also means it's also going to be pretty goddamn expensive, I believe. So, look, the Nova Lake X9 desktop, yeah, according to recent rumors out there that I have no reason to doubt and that I do believe is in line with what I'm expecting, suggests that each C die, so each one of the 8 plus 16 core chiplets, each one of those is 150 millimeters squared of 2 nanometer silicon. To put things in perspective, the Zen 6 flagship, each 12 core CCD will be 75. Yes, half of the Intel one, meaning, correct, Intel will use double the 2 nanometer silicon that AMD will this year with their Zen 6 flagship, or next year whenever it comes out. But in addition to that, AMD then has another 155 millimeter squared IO die that I think is probably 6 nanometer. Intel then has to package 3 other active chiplets and a bunch of dummy dies around it, as I've already leaked. Again, if you haven't watched that Nova Lake video, I really recommend it. I tell you everything you need to know about the design, including pictures of it. But so think about what that means. Just in total, we're looking at something from Intel here with the Nova Lake flagship that is probably at least, 400 millimeters squared? Probably at least bigger than 350 millimeters squared. Yes, this is HEDT class, and this could be around double the silicon that's in the Zen 6 flagship. If not double, I would say at least 50% more. And yes, double in terms of the most expensive node they're using, TSMC 2 nanometer. Look, I think Nova Lake should be pretty good. I actually have a quote I'm going to put on screen here in a second that tells you that they're getting a little excited about it. But make no mistake, this thing will cost probably twice as much to make as the Zen 6 flagship on AM5, while requiring a new platform. So whenever you see people go, Intel's going to swing back. This is something I keep saying over and over. And I even said it with Panther Lake, which I like Panther Lake. But if Intel has to charge twice as much to give you something similar to AMD, that's a big problem, and that's not going to stop AMD from pretty much dominating sales and taking more market share like they have been. But yeah, so a lot of people would probably think this is where I would normally end the video. I already did a big Xbox and RDNA 5 leak, and I just cleaned up some of the information circulating around regarding Nova Lake. Why not stop there? Well, it's because one of the sources that I talked to get this Nova Lake information let slip a whole lot more that they said I was okay to share with you. And so let me put this quote on screen and you'll see what I'm talking about. So this person told me, And I asked about Nova Lake, that so far they would summarize Nova Lake progress as good, but not fantastic. And in fact, the thing that most stands out to this person is how focused management is on getting Nova Lake to catch up to AMD in gaming performance. Hopefully, they are hoping they can. They're not sure if they can yet, and it's all probably going to come down to that APO plus thing that I've leaked. Again, watch that video if you want to know what that is. But then the person went on and said, actually, the most exciting stuff I've seen lately is our growing partnership with Nvidia. We're targeting Titan Lake as the debut product family with Nvidia iGPU tiles in 2029. It's expected to be incredibly competitive. And as for ARC itself, we still will be launching a 32 and 16 XC3P Nova Lake AX APU family next year, and we'll even be launching 12 XC3P APUs to desktop. To put things in perspective, everybody, Panther Lake, yes, Panther Lake, the APU that on battery can compete with Strix Halo right now, and, you know, just in general on paper performs around an RTX 5050, that Panther Lake, well, Nova Lake's going to get a plus of the architecture, so slightly better, almost the same architecture, but they're then going to scale from 12 cores to 32. Yes, over double. And that, to me, tells me that next year Intel doesn't just want to take it to Gorgon Halo in raw performance. They might want to try to humiliate Medusa Halo. But going back to the quote, this person said, but besides those SKUs, much of Nova Lake is actually going to use rebranded XE3 Panther Lake tiles, like the budget 2 and 4 XE tiles, not meant for gaming. And moving forward, it seems like there's no evidence that they are developing any significant GPU architectures after XE3P. This person double-checked it as well this week. Both Razor Lake and Titan Lake show XE3P still, and in fact, Titan Lake doesn't have any ARC tiles larger than 16 XE3P. It really looks like dGPU is done, and after Razor Lake, ARC will be relegated to ever smaller and smaller rebranded tiles of the same architecture for budget CPUs. And so, yeah, remember that Hammer Lake leak that I put out recently? The one where I confirmed that by Hammer Lake, and maybe by Titan Lake, Nvidia would be making the big GPU tiles for Intel? Yeah, well, I am now told that the partnership is going so well that they think they will have those Nvidia tiles ready in Intel APUs by Titan Lake. And so to recap what that means, because I know a lot of you say in the comments that you don't remember all the code names. I don't blame you. Let me tell you what that means in practice here. So right now we have Panther Lake. It's pretty great. It competes kind of with Strix Halo, and it certainly humiliates AMD's other APUs. Solid. It's expensive, but it is impressive. That's what's out right now. Then, within 12 months, Nova Lake's going to launch with a slightly updated version of the architecture in Panther Lake, but then it's also going to come with much larger APUs that will destroy Strix and Gorgon Halo in performance and potentially compete with Medusa Halo. We'll have to see. And then that is what's going to happen in 2027. In 2028, Razor Lake launches. Razor Lake, from what I'm told, is kind of like Alder Lake to Raptor Lake. So like a solid uplift, but not some massive refresh. I believe it's probably still going to use the same tile layout as Nova Lake as well, and just like put in a new CPU tile, and that's pretty much it. So that's 2028, and then 2029, NVIDIA tiles. This is when the NVIDIA Intel partnership really kicks off, and from there, and this person did look into more future stuff, which I'll be leaking, I'm sure, in the coming months, but everything shows XE3P or even just still XE3 even years from now. And as the architectures continue, the tiles that are Intel get smaller and smaller relative to the NVIDIA ones. Yes, guys, once again, just like I said would happen years ago, all the way back in 2022, I said in 2022 that Intel would launch Alchemist and then they would launch Battlemage, but Battlemage would be a messy launch without the full lineup, which has happened. It has happened. Where's big Battlemage for gamers? I don't see it in 26. And then after that, they would slowly move towards just making APU tiles again. Now, to those that would yell at me right now, well, that doesn't mean ARC's done, I would say, guys, Intel was making integrated graphics before ARC. So if they go back to just making low-end integrated graphics, that means it was like ARC never existed. Nothing has changed. Intel made great graphics. I love Broadwell. Haswell was great. Skylake was okay. That's where they started to fall apart. But like, if they go back to just making those, it is like ARC never happened. It's not new that Intel makes integrated graphics. And like I leaked, that seems to be the plan on Intel's roadmap. Wait, nope, don't worry. Don't click away. I'm not going to just start ranting at Intel. No, I'm actually going to close this video on a positive note. And that's that if you are sad about what I just confirmed for the 1000th time about the future of ARC, which is to say, there isn't one. Intel graphics is going to go back to how it used to operate, pretty much just making low-end stuff for good battery lives in their laptops. Don't be sad. Like, look at what's happening right now. Panther Lake is genuinely fantastic. And I believe it's fantastic because the driver team isn't trying to work on all this other stuff they don't have the bandwidth for. Heck, I'm testing this geek book here from GeekCom. I'll put a link in the description to it. And with Meteor Lake in it even, when I installed the latest Panther Lake compatible graphics, it did improve stability even further and made even Meteor Lake get a bit of a performance boost in some of the games I was testing. It is so abundantly obvious that now that the Intel graphics team isn't trying to focus on 100 things at once, just doing one thing well, which is like one new laptop architecture, they can do it actually very well, and it's incredibly stable. And I don't expect that stability for Panther Lake to change, nor should you worry about if it's safe to buy a Nova Lake APU. Think about what I've just confirmed here. I have confirmed that while Intel is kind of done developing new major updates to their graphics architecture, that at least for the next like 4 or 5 or 6 generations, their low-end APUs will still use the same architecture you can basically buy today and next year in Nova Lake. That means they're going to keep supporting it, and they're going to have the bandwidth to keep supporting it, even with a small team, because that's all they really have to do. And so when Intel launches their Halo killer APUs next year, I think you shouldn't hesitate to buy them if they perform well. Now, I do think they're going to be expensive, though, but I also think they're going to be very powerful. How powerful? Well, I've been sitting on some documents that have been the basis for some of my Nova Lake leaks for a bit now, and the source that provided me them said it's now safe to share a part of them. So let me put this on screen here. And look, most of the stuff that you're seeing on screen here isn't new. In fact, I've already put the majority of it into that aforementioned many times Nova Lake leak. But what was not in that leak was the node that the Halo APUs will be using from Intel next year, or as Intel calls them, the AX APUs. That's right, they will be using TSMC N2P. And so yes, that probably means that they're going to be incredibly expensive, but I also think that means they will be incredibly powerful. No promises, Intel's screwed up an architecture before, maybe it won't pan out. But if we assume that the performance will scale even just by core count, meaning that we assume XE3P is no better than XE3 per core, that it's the same performance even though they're going to a much better node. Well, what I would suggest is it seems obvious that this could hit RTX 5080 laptop performance or better, and at a minimum, I would expect it to beat the 5070 Ti laptop. Again, unless something goes wrong, and that is incredibly exciting. Because think about what I've already confirmed earlier in the video. We are going to have incredibly powerful AMD APUs next year that scale performance to new levels never before seen in laptop. But you know what? Those AMD APUs, unlike last year, will not be alone, will not be able to demand whatever price they want, because Intel will have an answer to them. And that is incredibly exciting and fantastic news for gamers. All right, that finally now is going to do it for this video now that I have come full circle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, share the video, comment down below, and consider joining the Moore's Law is Dead Patreon, where you get access to a catalog of hundreds of die shrinks. A new one just came out actually talking about what we want out of the future of APUs. And then there will be another one, of course, coming out next week. Actually, also, I will be putting out the reader mail requests for the guest that's coming out in Broken Silicon next week. That is Fan the Deck. We will be talking about the new announcements from Valve for the Steam Machine, upcoming PlayStation and Xbox consoles and APUs from AMD, and so on and so forth. Even at the lowest tier, the $1 tier, if you join right now, you'll be able to ask this guest questions and get access to some die shrinks as well. So please, we can't do this without our patrons. Please consider joining it to support me, Dan, Gerard, Jean-Philippe, and Carbon Cry. And for everybody else, though, I mean, look, if you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you for watching.